Welcome back to A View in the Press Box. Dima Mixon here with the Pine Belt News, along with Glenn Dyar, 247 Sports. Back with you after kind of a week off a little bit. Some things just come up in life, and tough things in life, and sometimes you just can't do everything you want to do, Glenn. And first off, just happy that you're back, and still prayers to your family.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate it.
Yeah. But we are back, and we have a lot to talk about here on the show today. A lot of you have been asking me, when's the next show going to come out? So we do really like to hear that stuff. People looking for these things. We enjoy doing them, and just if you love the show, just make sure and hit subscribe. Hit that like. Leave a comment, whatever you'd like to do. It really helps drive our numbers up, and really helps all that engagement stuff. And, we just have to say that. So, if you like what you're hearing, which, I hope you do, but I'm actually talking. So a lot of people don't like to hear me talk. So, if you like what you're hearing from Glenn, definitely subscribe. Glenn, we got a lot to talk about today.
Yeah, we do. A lot's gone down since we last did this. God, how many days has it been? It's been a little while.
Yeah, well, we did the makeshift show after the Mississippi State game, and then didn't do anything for North Alabama, and then obviously Ole Miss the other night. So we're here. We got a lot to recap. So Glenn was not at the games on this weekend at North Alabama, so I'm going to do a quick kind of just my thoughts on it, and then Glenn, you can comment whatever you'd like on that, and then we'll do kind of both of our thoughts on the game last night, Southern Miss, Ole Miss. We're recording this on Wednesday. You're hearing this on Thursday. Southern Miss, Ole Miss on Tuesday night, and then we'll get into a kind of a deep dive into Arkansas State and just kind of break them down a little bit. And then we have a bunch of questions from our listeners that we'll get into at the end. So that's kind of the script. Hold on to your hats because we got a lot to cover. So just to recap on North Alabama, the Golden Eagles sweep I think they're the Lions. Always forget, that they're the Leopards, the Lions, whatever. It's just
isn't that where Will Hall was
kind of
quarterback?
more like an animal,
I think Will Hall was the quarterback there back in the day, wasn't he?
He was. You're right. Anyway, so Golden Eagles come out, win a nice game on Friday night behind a really nice start for Colby Allen against what I thought was a pretty good lineup for what it's worth for North Alabama. 9-4 victory on Friday night. They come out on Saturday, real slugfest. The line says 6-1, but that was a game. It was only 2-1, I think, in the eighth, and Southern Miss played at 4 in the bottom of the eighth to kind of take control of that game, to win the series there. And then Sunday's game, 9-2 victory over the Lions. One thing I wanted to talk about, Glenn, this, I'll just give my thoughts, and then you can just kind of note what you think on this. But the starting pitching, we've kind of talked about it as being not necessarily the weakness, because you can't really say this team has a weakness because they're 15-2, number 7 in the country, number 1 RPI. That's a very strong team. But if we're nitpicking where we thought that there could be improvement, we thought the starting pitching you could get improvement there. And man, on this weekend, I said it on our show after the Mississippi State game. I thought that weekend was a weekend that all three of those guys could get confidence-based starts to finally feel like a starter. And it's nothing against Allen, McCarty, English, or Grayton Harris, who all three of them have had good outings. They've just played such gosh dang good competition that even 4 innings, it didn't seem like a great outing because, they were allowing a run here or there. But this weekend against North Alabama, Colby Allen, it says the line says he gave up 3 earned runs, but 2 of those earned runs were when Gillespie fell down on an inside the park home run. So really, he went 6 innings with only 1 earned run. And then, Grayton Harris, just dominant performance on Saturday. 13 strikeouts across career high 7 innings pitched. He consistently attacked hitters with that fastball. It seemingly like to me that he's just going to go back to that fastball, fastball slider or whatever he wants to do. And then if he can just add that cutter in, he talked about that after the game. 13 strikeouts for him on Saturday. And then McCarty English. He was lights out on Sunday, 5 1/3 pitched. He retired the first 10 batters he faced and finished the outing with 5 strikeouts, 1 walk, just with 3 hits to get his first win of the season. They only pitched 4 guys through Friday, Saturday. So they had the whole bullpen available on Sunday, basically between Ock and man, I can't remember, or excuse me, Civilly, then Ock on Saturday. And so it was an incredible performance from the starting pitching. This was the final numbers, Glenn, on the starting pitching: 22 and a third innings, 6 earned runs, 2.42 ERA, 31 strikeouts. That type of performance, if they could muster something similar to that each weekend, I mean, with the bullpen they have, I mean, that's just a ridiculous weapon to have.
Yeah, no doubt. And I was, to reiterate that, I was talking to Mark Etheridge after the Ole Miss game Mark Etheridge from D1, and he's come away. He's been at all the big games, and he just seems really impressed with our pitching staff, particularly, the depth and talent and the youth and talent of that bullpen. And even though some of these pitchers, they're not really, the starting pitchers weren't really giving up runs. They just weren't getting deep into games.
Sure.
But it's not been an issue. I mean, Oz is able to take his guys in shortened games and get to his monsters on the back end, and then it's game over. So Oz has had plenty of arms for that situation. The key is they're not giving up the runs. They're just not getting as deep as maybe you would like.
Correct. And a lot of people wanted McCarty English. They wanted Tunstrom to be in the Sunday slot and all this stuff. And if you look at McCarty English's stats, like he's only given up like 7 hits in his first 3 starts.
Yeah, having that outing Sunday was big for McCarty. He's got plenty of stuff. He just needs it's right here for him. He just needs to get that confidence, man.
Yeah, and I think to have that confidence going into conference play. I mean, I don't expect any change in the rotation because I really feel like Allen and Harris are going to be what they are. I mean, Harris, the only change in the rotation I might think of would be Harris on Friday, Colby on Saturday. No knock at Colby, but Graydon's just been on fire. But on Sunday with McCarty, let's just say he has a tough outing where he doesn't go deep, 3 innings or whatever. It feels like this is the bullpen that you could be fine with that, with the way that your first 2 guys are throwing.
Yeah, I mean, when you and I are sitting up in the press box watching the game, it's like in the past, if one of our guys didn't get deep enough, I was like watching pitch counts, getting nervous, going, this is going to be a problem, particularly last year.
Right.
That pen was not deep. But now it's like, they're not giving up runs. You just, his pitch count's getting up. No biggie. I get excited about who he's going to throw out there. Is it going to be Sundstrom? Is it going to be Bruce Littleton? I mean, it's a fun bullpen to watch, particularly those young guys, because they're just getting better and better.
No doubt. And it really did to kind of like comprehensively show that point. J.W. Armstead comes out in that Sunday game. And he just didn't look good. I mean, he gave up 2 walks, kind of, got Southern Miss into some trouble. And I think last year, let's just say that was, Matt Adams or something like that, somebody out of that bullpen, which I know he ended up being a starter. But, let's just say Matt Adams came out of the bullpen and did that. You kind of just had to ride him. You couldn't, go out there and pull him and put someone else in. But Oz didn't even hesitate, and he threw in Dylan Causey, and he got out of that. So
yeah, that's a great point. Pointing at some of the biggest differences between that staff and this staff. You show a propensity to walk, give up walks. He's coming out there with a hook quick, and he's got plenty of great options sitting there, with the pen ready to go.
No doubt. That was just, I think that to me is the big, and I would love to, ask Oz that exact question. And I think I have before in the Eagle Hour, just not in a great wording of it, but like, last year, you just didn't have that. You didn't, and it doesn't mean that J.W. Armstead is a bad pitcher. There's just sometimes as a pitcher, you're not going to be able to go out there and perform lights out every single time you go out as a pitcher. We've seen that with Tanner Hall and, whoever it is. But he has such a deep pen that if that happens and he walks 1 or 2 guys, okay, I can just throw in Bruce Littleton. Okay, I can just throw in Kale Farr. Okay, I can just throw – there's just so many guys.
Yeah, he doesn't have to weather that storm or navigate that storm that he had to last year. You're almost like praying a little bit that you can get him to the 5th or 6th inning,
Right.
So that's not even close to an issue anymore.
Yeah. So must-needed sweep after that disappointing Nichols loss on Wednesday night. Got the sweep. And then obviously just another blockbuster game. Ole Miss in town last night, Glenn, for us. Obviously you're listening on Thursday, but it was last night for us, and another just phenomenal crowd, phenomenal atmosphere, and a very clean baseball game played between those two squads.
Yeah, it was a great baseball game. Good defense, tremendous pitching on both sides. I saw some arms for Ole Miss that were just fantastic. The I don't forgot his first name, but the Rabe kid, the big right-hander,
Yeah.
95, 97, and then he's coming with that cutter, tunneling just like that fastball. I mean, it's tough on a hitter with that kind of stuff coming in there. And you saw from us maybe some pop fouls, foul out, defensive swings. I was talking again to Mark. He was there again talking about, do you think, our guys pressed a little bit, maybe expanded the zone? We were rolling over pitches early in counts and getting into those double plays. And Mark said maybe a little bit, but the biggest thing was that was great pitching you were facing. I was like, yeah, that makes sense. Just really legit pitching you're battling.
I was very impressed with Ole Miss's staff. I mean, they really brought in 5 or 6 guys I thought who was in the mid 90s. And even Tucker Stockman's walk-off single was a 96-mile-an-hour fastball. And so, it was really impressive stuff. And really, if Ole Miss can figure out things from an offensive perspective, I think they're going to be a really good team. Their offense just wasn't – and credit to Southern Miss's pitching, of course. Their offense just doesn't seem as good as it's been in the past, if that makes sense. Like that's not Mississippi State's offense.
No, but the other side of the coin is I thought the Ole Miss arms for a midweek were better quality than what we saw versus Mississippi State too.
Sure.
Just guy after guy after guy, So that was impressive. That's a big thing for those guys going forward. They just, gonna have to start swinging it a little better.
Right. Some notables from that game. Stockman, his walk-off was the 36th walk-off since the 2017 season. Golden Eagles were 2-15 with runners on the base paths, and they were 1-for-6 with runners in scoring position. Of course, the one did matter, which was the last one with Stockman's. Ole Miss only 3 hits, which is their lowest output of the season. And they only had 1 run, which is their lowest since their loss to Coastal Carolina. They had 9 strikeouts and just 1 walk, and that walk was Udemark in the 9th from Camden Clark. Southern Miss 5 strikeouts, 3 walks, but they also batted into 3 double plays. So both teams struggled from the plate, Glenn, but I really thought there was chances for Southern Miss to kind of break open that game and not make it be a walk-off game. And they just kept, hitting it into a double play here or pop-up bunt or whatever it was. There was just a couple of times where you're just like, man, just hit it into the play, and see what happens.
Well, you just lift a ball, go backside, whatever. I mean, you're obviously in those situations, your approach changes. Kind of an uncommon situation when you're in that part of the game. And I saw maybe too many just common swings for uncommon situations. Maybe the approach wasn't quite where it needed to be, but like I said, I hashed that over with Mr. Etheridge, and he quickly pointed out that was really good pitching they were facing, last night. So
Southern Miss, which is it is kind of crazy, but Southern Miss right now 118th in the country in batting average with a 278. It doesn't concern me yet, I would say, because I think there's so many guys in the lineup where if you just have Russo finally figure it out, or even Stockman, you're kind of like one guy away from like having
exactly. That's what I was saying. Just one guy away from that lineup getting really a lot longer.
Right. So it's not really concerning, especially with the pitching they've faced. I would say that Southern Miss has probably faced the best pitching in the country, besides with UC Santa Barbara and Oregon State, and while Louisiana Tech obviously kind of just collapsed in that series, that was still good arms that they had.
They saw last night. I mean, yep. Warren Nolan, I think presently that their strength of schedule is number 2 in the entire country. I mean, that was a meat grinder, man.
Right. And Glenn, to be 15-2 coming out of that, I mean, it's just – I think we can now say that the non-conference slate is done. I know there's some midweeks. There's a lot of midweeks left, but this is conference play this week. But when you think about the non-conference slate as far as weekend series and getting through it has to be an A+. Absolutely. Now, Oz told us on Monday on the Eagle Hour that it was an A- because they lost to Nichols. But which I understand because you just can't lose that game.
Yeah, they were just emotionally, not in the ballpark. The fans were the same way. When I walked in that place, it was dead, man. The players, the fans, all of it. They were still having the hangover from the prior big victory from the prior night. So I get it, man. You can see that coming. It's not an excuse, but I mean it's a reality. So
yeah, maybe next year when Oz, writes out the schedule, maybe put Nichols, the weekend after the ULM series or something.
dude, they've always given Southern Miss fits, man. So
they really do.
Off that number 2 strength of schedule, they also are 9-1 against quadrant 1 competition. That is humongous, especially when you get down to the end of the season and you're trying to, you talk about your resume and body of work. That's just huge.
Yeah, and when you think, I saw a tweet that said that the SEC, I think, has 15 quad 1 wins as a total, and Southern Miss has 9. I mean, it's just, and I think what's really good for Southern Miss fans right now is the teams that you need to win are winning. Like UC Santa Barbara hasn't lost since that rubber match game, right? And Ole Miss, like they're 11th RPI right now, which I know RPI is a wash. And I think people on Twitter are taking a little too much for RPI right now. I'm like, y'all need to chill out. I know, saying that the Nichols game is going to tank their RPI. I'm like, dude, it's in March. We're in March. Just everybody chill out. Right. But it is important because Ole Miss is going to be playing SEC opponents, and you want them to win. Mississippi State, of course, they're in the top 50. Louisiana, who's coming up, they're in the top 50.
They're looking good.
And Oregon State, they struggled a little bit, but now they're starting to win. They're in the top 20 in RPI. Alabama, they're in the top 30, which, that quad 1 is generally 1 to 25, give or take. But if it's a neutral game, it's 1 to 40, generally. So Oregon State was a neutral game, of course, so that would fall under a quad 1 win. So they just have had so many quad 1 wins. And, their only loss, of course, is that Friday game to Jackson, Florida, as their only quad 1 loss. And like you said, I mean, I think Southern Miss has put themselves in an absolute lock to host, as provided they take care of conference business. And, Glenn, what I like to do is look at the predicted RPI on Warren Nolan. And their predicted RPI currently would be 7th at the end of the season with a 46-8 regular season record. That, to me, with their resume, would easily put them in play for a national seed, top 8 seed.
Oh, no doubt, man. And when you're talking about this, I'm thinking this team's not even playing its best baseball yet. We hadn't gotten the best results from our starters that we're probably going to get. Oz still has quality pieces. He can run out of that bullpen. That's still coming together. Just watching it and watching the way the systematic way he's running guys out, with matchups off prior pitchers. It's probably about 75% set. You're still going to see. I'm waiting for Sam Mitchell to get another opportunity. I'm waiting for Chase Adams is probably his best matchup lefty to get in, get going and, get that arm going again. And we're not swinging it, like we can swing it, the Stelly get going. I know Russo's going to get going. I have no doubt. I think Stockman's showing signs of getting it going again. And God, what a great getting Morrison, man. I didn't see him swinging it that way. He's a fastball hitting monster.
Yeah, I mean, I would consider moving him up in the lineup, maybe 4 or 5.
He'd be my 4-hole, man.
Yeah, and you're right. When you look at this lineup, I mean, Russo hitting 254, like that's just not great. So he can do it. He's going to be able to come into form and hit better than that. Higdon is at 227, which granted was better than a couple weeks ago when he was sub 200. So he might be starting to come into form. Dre Barrett, of course, 266. Like he's a 300 hitter eventually in this season, I would think. Like you said, Stockman, he's starting to come along. He's up to 250. And I would think he could be a 300 hitter. Seth Smith, 341. Now he's cooled off, but this lineup has the ability to have 6-7 guys in that 300 average. And really every single player on this team has showed the ability to go yard. So it'll be a long lineup to navigate, I think, when it's time to figure out how to navigate them in late April, May.
Yeah, I totally agree. I just, year after year after year, this offense has struggled coming out of the gate. this year they probably struggle less than in years in the past, and had to against incredible pitching they faced. I mean, I just feel so positive about what they faced, what they produced, and what they have ahead of them. I mean, we're getting into conference, and it's like, I don't want to sound, I don't even, it's probably the easiest stretch of games they've played to this point.
Yeah, no, it really is. I mean, I was looking at their conference schedule and I was going sweep, 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 sweep. Like,
and they have to do
and it's
that.
no offense to the Sun Belt teams. It's just what we've seen from Southern Miss. It's a significant drop off. And I know we're going to talk about Arkansas State here in a minute. And one thing about Arkansas State, and we'll get into them in just a second, is like they have about 5, 6 really good players.
Yeah, Coach Silva's an outstanding coach, man. At La Tech, at Nichols. As soon as he got there, he started turning that thing around, and he's recruited well, and he's gotten some really key pieces for this team out of the portal. So, I mean, other than Oz, I think in Schnall, I think Coach Silva and those 3 guys are, just really great coaches in the top echelon of coaches within the Sun Belt Conference.
Yeah. Okay. Let's get into the Arkansas State preview because I have something I want to get into this, but then I have some thoughts at the end of this after we kind of preview them. All right. So obviously, Coach Silva, obviously formerly part of that Louisiana Tech run, and then he became the head coach there. He went to Nichols and now doing the similar work at Arkansas State, where he turned Nichols into a Southland contender. I think he got them in the tournament 2 or 3 times. His first season at Arkansas State, 21-32. Last year, 26-28, and now this year they're started 13-5, including a win over Arkansas on the road. And they probably should have taken 2 of those games because they lost that other one by 1 run, I think.
Yeah, the Ole Miss, they had that. They were in it till the end against Ole Miss. Was it 7-6? I think.
Yep. So I expect them to be right there for a 4 or 5 seed in the conference tournament. I would pair them with maybe a little, probably a step down from like a Louisiana, but very close to Louisiana, I would think. So, you want to start with pitching or hitting?
I just, something just to kind of, I started looking at numbers, who they've played, and these 2 teams are statistically on paper are pretty evenly matched.
Yeah.
The big thing, and we'll get to that with pitching, is we're going to see, what sometimes is our kryptonite in a lot of left-handed pitchers. And, the thing I was looking for a difference to hang my hat on, and just one of the only things I could find was to that strength of schedule with USM being number 2 and playing that meat grinder of a schedule and seeing all those quality arms. Arkansas State's won 175. So, I don't know that, going back to La Tech when we had questions about that series, I wasn't sure they had been really tested yet. So that may be something that we can talk about later after the series, if that was, if there was anything to that, or it was just a mirage.
Yeah, for sure. Like you said, Southern Miss right now, number 2 strength of schedule with incredible wins. Arkansas State listed as 152. Is that right?
I think that's correct.
Okay. Oh, 175. Excuse me.
Yeah, 175 for strength of schedule. Yeah.
But they did kind of wipe the floor with La Tech in Ruston.
Yeah, they did.
Two weeknight games. Like we said, they beat Arkansas. They really took Ole Miss down to the wire, 6-7. So I did not mean to make that joke, by the way, 6-7 joke. But yeah. So I'm with you, but I do think they played better competition than Louisiana Tech did before that Southern Miss series.
I totally agree. And they have quality wins that make you second guess, my presumption. So yeah.
And I think playing on the road is tough, but one thing is, like, I don't see Southern Miss going in there and just laying an egg. Just that, like, their experience, that to me trumps the home field advantage, if that makes sense. So, like, on paper, do I think Southern Miss is the better baseball team? Of course. And then, like, do I give like a nod to Arkansas State for being at home? It's like normally I would, but Southern Miss's strength of schedule is the reason I'm not, if that makes sense. That's kind of where I stand on that.
Yeah, there's just nobody that on the schedule that scares me after what they've been through, and the way they've won games, and the different ways they've won games. I'm not, it's all there in front of them. It's up to them to go take it. And, and back to the home field advantage. What is it? They are Arkansas State's 8-1 at home. So,
yeah,
they're used to winning at home.
Sure. All right. Let's jump into pitching first. And one thing about these pitchers, and I want to preface everything by saying that they appear to be really good numbers that all these pitchers have for Arkansas State. They're actually 6th in the country in ERA, by the way, which is 2 ahead of Southern Miss, I believe. I think Southern Miss is number 8. But these starting pitchers for Arkansas State, these are the teams that they played on weekend series: Stony Brook, Eastern Illinois, Arkansas Pine Bluff, and Oral Roberts. So when you think of these numbers against those teams versus the number 7 team in the country and number 1 RPI team, I hesitate people to, go all in on the pitching numbers, because I just don't think they've seen an offense like this. And the times they have seen offenses like this, teams have been able to score on them, like Ole Miss, Arkansas, things like that. Now, they might have won. They might have eventually won, because I think Arkansas State's offense is pretty decent. But let me preface that with saying that first. Chase Richer is going to be their Friday night guy, left-handed pitcher, 5th-year pitcher. He was very similar to Colby Allen. He was a closer. He moved to that starting role, moved to the Friday night ace role, actually. Kind of a low 90s fastball slider, trying to develop into that changeup. His number 3, a 3.0 ERA, 1.1 whip, 23 strikeouts, 3 walks, 21 innings pitched, and a 2-1 record. Kind of just your typical mid-major left-handed pitcher, Glenn.
Yeah, I mean, just looking at all these guys and comparing to what we've already seen, we have the caveat of the lefties, and you and I both always get nervous when we play lefties. And I'm not going to say they're soft tossing lefties, because most of them are 88, 90, 91, 92, but they're not the big powered velo arms we've faced to this point. These guys will attack the zone. They don't walk people. They're going to attack the zone. They're going to change levels, change speeds. They're going to be crafty. I want to see how that plays out against our guys, particularly our left-handed hitters. What's the Russo going to do, against that stuff. It's not a power setup, but they can frustrate the heck out of you from what I've seen. And you continue to go, but the Saturday guy, Jack Nelson, we saw him last year, and he came in and threw 3 2/3, 6 Ks, no walks, no hits. I mean, he didn't throw long, but the innings that he threw, he dominated us.
Yeah, no doubt. That's the thing that kind of the one thing that makes me nervous about this is Southern Miss right now. It just feels like I don't want to say weakness, but they're kind of one thing we're questioning is, when is this offense going to start hitting, right? Like, when are they going to start producing?
Still trying to find themselves.
Correct. And now you're going to go up against 3 lefties who could throw junk, who historically have been Southern Miss's kryptonite. Historically, not saying that it has really been this year, but historically that has been Southern Miss's kryptonite. And you're going to have 3 straight days of it.
Right.
So I think this is going to be a real get to know what this team is made of sort of thing. Of like, do we think this team is over that, or are they just kind of the same old Southern Miss who just can't hit lefties with junk? Because I don't even think lefties who can throw hard normally hurt. Like, I feel like Southern Miss can hit that better than they can hit 88, 89, and then a 74-mile-an-hour changeup.
Yeah, it's just the ability of a lefty to command more than one pitch. College kids can hit velo. It's the complementary pieces off velo that get dangerous for people. So, I'm reminded of the kid from Old Dominion that gave us so many fits for years. I mean,
what was his name? Blake Morgan.
His fastball was 91, 92, but he commanded 4 pitches every time we played him. You didn't know what you were going to get. You were, just defensive swings, and you're so out of whack with that guy. That's the kind of thing I'm worried about this weekend. Can those guys do that sort of stuff with us? Get us frustrated, get us guessing,
Right.
So it's going to be interesting. I look forward to checking it out.
Yeah. Jack Nelson, left-handed pitcher, is going to be their Saturday starter. He's a senior as well. So all of these guys are very experienced. Chase on Friday, 5th-year pitcher. This guy on Saturday, senior lefty. Now, he doesn't have a lot of starting experience. I think this was his first year he's going to start. But, kind of that he's an upper 80s guy, low 90s fastball, 2.49 ERA, 0.7 whip, 21 strikeouts to 7 walks, and also 2-1 record. So very similar to what they're going to see on Saturday, almost identical. And then their Sunday guy, also a left-handed pitcher. He's probably the most proven starter in rotation because he came from Delta State, 3.86 ERA at Delta State, 81 and 2/3 innings. Now he does not throw fast. And I talked to Travis Creel today, and he said it was kind of junk. Is kind of how he worded it.
That
really
frustrated us in the past. I mean, other guys I've looked at, they don't walk people. He's the one exception. He's 14/8 strikeouts to walks. So, you may want to take some pitches from this guy early and give guys a look and see where he's at, if he's in the zone or not. So, right. But back to the Saturday guy that gave us such fits last year coming out of the pen, Jack Nelson. He's not a power guy. He just changes speeds. You're guessing. You're off balance with him. Your timing. That's like I said, six strikeouts and 3 2/3 against us. No hits, no walks. If he's on, that's the kind of stuff you're going to see. He's just going to change speed you up, slow you down. That's what he has the ability to do, and that's frustrating for a hitter. So
for sure. You're right. Southern Miss did see him, and that was in that Friday game where Southern Miss walked them off, I believe, when they played Arkansas State last year. I mean, if you don't remember, Arkansas State came into Hattiesburg, battled pretty well for most of that game, most of those series, and obviously they kind of fell off in that Sunday game. I think Southern Miss run-ruled them in that second game, they
ran out of pitching.
Right? And I mean, again, I don't know if I would expect anything different this season, this go around. If you can get past these frontline guys, and I want to run through their bullpen here, but
get to the pen.
A lot of just you don't know because they don't, that their numbers appear good, but again, this is a whole nother animal, right? Than Oral Roberts and Arkansas Pine Bluff.
Still much to learn, particularly for them rather than us.
Correct.
For us, I just want to see if we can be patient, at the plate.
Which is why I like, by the way, Urban leading off because I feel like he gets 8-9 pitches off the pitcher and start the game, so.
Yeah, Higdon's a fastball killer, man. He's built to take hacks and be aggressive. Taking pitches and working counts is not his forte. So I like the switch there.
Yeah, Houston Tomlinson, right-handed pitcher, Texas A&M transfer, probably their fastest thrower on the team. Yeah, he logs 96, 97. Yep. Low 80s slider. He has not given up an earned run this season, but he's only thrown 2 2/3. So I don't think he's like their first guy out of the pen. But if he does come in, just know he has that velocity. Yep. Colin Maloney, right-handed pitcher, 6'3", 210, 2.76 ERA, 16.5 innings out of the pen. But then kind of their guy who's really given them a lot of innings, Tyler Weimer, 23 innings pitched, 1.17 ERA, 0.7 WHIP. 20 strikeouts to 6 walks. I mean, those are pretty good numbers, regardless of who you are and who you're coming out of the pen. He's probably their best reliever out of the pen.
Yeah, and those numbers, strikeout to walk numbers, are indicative of that entire staff as a stat. As a whole, they're 3/1 strikeouts to walk. So I mean, that's what you want, man.
Yeah. Okay, so that's their pitching. Let's go to their hitting now. I would say I'm not overly impressed by their offensive numbers. They have a couple of guys who are pretty, have nice numbers, but for the most part, Glenn, this lineup doesn't really scare me as far as 1 through 9.
Yeah, the one thing that jumped out to me, obviously, they can, slug with power. I think they got 2 more home runs than we do, totally. But I think this is a more athletic group than they had last year. I see they've got a lot of extra base hits, probably twice as many doubles as we have. So I think it's a little longer, more athletic group that Coach Silva's put together this year. They'll hit it in the alleys, man, and down the lines. A lot of doubles.
Yeah, 41 doubles for Arkansas State, 26 for Southern Miss. They bat a 2.71 average, and Southern Miss bats a 2.74. Their OPS is 852. Southern Miss's is 865. So, I mean, it's almost like we're watching the same.
Yeah, when we look at it on paper, it's like, yeah.
They have 27 home runs. Southern Miss has 25. So it's crazy.
I just think in the end, the big things that stood out to me were competition played, and another difference maker that's been the difference maker on many games for Southern Miss is the Southern Miss bullpen.
Right.
So
Yeah, I mean, this is by far the best pitching staff that Arkansas State's going to have faced. I mean,
Yeah.
it's really not even going to be close.
Yeah, I mean, you actually don't want to get to the bullpen, and that's rare. I'm
Yes.
excited when they get to our bullpen.
Maybe they just like make Colby go 6 innings and see what happens.
Exactly.
Just take pitches, leave them in as long as possible. We don't want to see Ock or Camden Clark or Camden Lindstrom, whoever it is.
Whoever he wants to run out there.
Yeah. Lane Walton is a guy for them. Glyn, 10 home runs this season, 316 average, 30 RBI, 7 doubles. I mean, that's real numbers right there.
Yeah, big pickup for them. That's one of their guys that got out of the portal. So he's been good for them, no doubt. 6'2", about 215 pounds, just a big, long, athletic guy.
Yeah, he's a Hill College transfer, so JUCO, and he had great numbers last year in JUCO, 325, 7 homers. They also got Evan Griffiths. He's from Stetson. He's a transfer from Stetson. They brought him in because they wanted to give more power to the lineup. He hasn't really done that so far, only 3 home runs and a 299 average, but he does bat for average as far as he's gotten on base a lot. His OPS is pretty high. Couple other names just to be aware of. Carson Campbell, 286 average, 4 home runs. Patrick Ingsgoff, Southern Miss fans, I remember him last season. He's got a 272 average right now, 4 home runs, 7 doubles. So kind of similar to Southern Miss, where their home run hit. They want to hit. They kind of live and die by the home runs, but they also have almost twice as many doubles. So kind of like where you want to see Southern Miss's lineup eventually be is where Arkansas State's is.
Yeah, they get runners in the scoring position. I think they're not a crazy base stealing team. I think they're 23 or 25 though, so they're efficient with it. Yep. Forgot the kid's name, but the center fielder leadoff hitter is back again. He gave us fits last year. He's 5 for 5 with stolen bases, and he's a guy that's going to hit for average. And once you get him on there, he's going to put pressure on you, on your defense. Do what?
Ashton Queiler is who you're thinking of?
Yeah, that's him. Yeah. Really solid baseball player.
Yeah, 47 average right now, 8 doubles. And he's their leadoff guy, like you said.
He sets the table for him. He does a great job at it.
When you compare these two teams, like I said, when you look at these numbers, they're almost identical. Southern Miss, so walks to strikeouts, Arkansas State 76 to 156. Southern Miss has taken 92 walks to 133 strikeouts. So Southern Miss statistically a little bit better there. I want to run you through the pitching stats, Glenn, as far as how close these teams are in pitching. ERA, 273 for Arkansas State, 258 for Southern Miss. WHIP, Arkansas State 1.1, Southern Miss 1.15. Arkansas State strikeout to walks 141 to over 50, Southern Miss 180 to 54. Team batting average against 216 for Arkansas State, 218 for Southern Miss. So, you're talking about statistically almost dead even, but the one separator is just that's the competition that Southern Miss has played.
Strength of schedule, man. The numbers say even, and logic after you look at who they played. I think I want to see how big a variable it is. In my mind, I think it's huge, but we're going to see.
Because I have a lot more questions about Arkansas State than I do of Southern Miss.
Most definitely.
And I think if you're an Arkansas State fan listening to this, you're probably listening to this going like, this weekend we find out who we are as a team. And, I think their goal is just to compete, which I think they have the arms to be able to make these, Arkansas State's formula to win the game is low scoring and, getting something towards the end. That's really their formula to win these games, which is really the formula to beat Southern Miss baseball in general. Because I've always said that if Southern Miss scores 5 runs, they're probably going to win most games they're playing because of how lethal the bullpen is, and they just don't allow runs. And the few times that Southern Miss has lost is when the offense just wasn't there. Like, Tuesday night, 2 runs. Ole Miss could have won that game, and Southern Miss had every opportunity to kind of break that game open.
Yeah, they're one hit away from making that 4-1 easy.
Yeah, you're right. And then you think to the Nichols game, there's no reason that Southern Miss shouldn't have scored 7-8 runs in that game, but they scored 2 and lost the game. And then you think back to the UC Santa Barbara game, and obviously that was against Flora, but that game was 3-1 in the 8th, and I think UC Santa Barbara hit a 3-run homer there in the 8th inning or something like that.
Yeah, again, another game where you're 1 hit away from
exactly.
changing the outcome of that baseball game.
But that is the formula to beat. Yeah. You have to win in a low scoring game to beat them. I think. I just don't think a lot of teams are going to get in some track meet with Southern Miss and win 11-9. I mean, we just haven't seen that from the Southern Miss bullpen.
Yeah, I just don't think that bullpen's going to give those kind of numbers up. It's going to have to be one of those crazy nights where we just ended up walking a lot of people, put traffic on the bases, then made mistakes, up in the zone, gave up long balls.
For sure. All right. Well, anything else on Arkansas State? We're going to give our predictions and then get into questions from our listeners.
No, I look forward to seeing it. There's still some discovery where, who is Arkansas State for real, and I see things that say they are. I want to see how that plays out on the field, and I want to continue to, my biggest question with Southern Miss is watching that offense continue to develop. And they're still moving pieces around, in that lineup, trying to find the right setup. And this is a weekend with multiple lefties where you may see a Tonsmeyer get some work, because he's a righty. You may see Ty Long get some work with Smith kind of, back down to his numbers back down at the plate, as you want to inject more right-handed hitters into those lineups. So I'm curious to see how that plays out.
Yeah, great argument. Let's get into predictions. So, what do you think is going to happen this weekend, Glenn? Do you think sweep 2 out of 3, Arkansas State wins the series, or disaster and Arkansas State sweeps?
I think 2 out of 3, man. When you're playing on the road against a conference foe, my first objective, if I'm the coach, let's win 2 out of 3. Don't get swept. We get 2 out of 3. That third game's, cherry on top. So
yeah, I agree. I'm going to say sweep just because I said 2 out of 3 at Louisiana Tech, and they swept pretty dominantly, and it was almost an identical situation. Like with Louisiana Tech, we thought they had the capability of winning that series, and Southern Miss's just experience and strength of schedule and battle tested just kind of came out, and they just kind of overwhelmed Louisiana Tech.
An older team, man. They don't get nervous about anything.
Right. And I think this ballpark is not as tough to play in as Love Field was. So, I think there's a lot of metrics for Southern Miss in this series that I like. So I'm going to say sweep. You say 2 out of 3. So that's our analysis there of Arkansas State and the series this weekend. Let's get into some questions, Glenn. We got a lot of good questions from your board. We got several from baseball, a couple from basketball, and 2 from football. So we'll get into these. Let's start with from Crazy Eagle. Is it safe to say Sundstrom will be used similar to the way Allen has been used the last couple of years?
Most definitely. Great assessment by Crazy there. He's initially, he's just assumed that role. I thought it was going to be Camden Clark. That's kind of how he was setting up coming out of fall ball, but he's been our back end dude. You get to him, it's over. So that he suits that role well. Camden's got that loose arm, man. He's easy 91, 93. He's a guy that can throw multiple times during a weekend, and it doesn't affect him where, Camden's more of a, go out there for one inning and, blow your gas. So that's a great setup and great strategery by Oz.
Yeah, I think they play off of each other. I feel like Sundstrom's kind of being used similar to like how Sibley would be used actually versus
the right-handed Sibley.
Yeah, the right-handed Sibley.
And his slider is so improved, man.
Yeah. Well, the thing with like Allen the last couple of years is like you wouldn't see him come in for 4 or 5 innings, generally speaking. And I think like Sundstrom, they have that ability with Sundstrom.
Yeah, and to Sundstrom last year, he didn't have an out pitch. This year, that slider is his out pitch, and it's playing it up, man. When it's on, people are just swinging over it, swing and miss. So.
And he left one hanging the other night to Ole Miss, and they took it to center field. But generally it's just a mistake pitch, and a good team is just going to hit it, and it didn't bother me. But
late in the game, the ball was dying out there.
Yeah, I know. Higdon and then their guy. I
thought both of those were gone.
Yeah, I thought they were long gone off the bat. Furness's was 101 off the bat, and it wasn't a home run. So.
Yeah, if they had hit that in the first 3 innings, those balls are out of the park when that wind was whipping out of dead center field. So,
yeah, I agree. From Esquire Eagle, between Stelly Long and Tonsmeyer, who are you giving DH at bats for this upcoming series, and why? I'll go first. I think you stick with Stelly to start. I really thought he was hitting the ball pretty hard, a couple times at people, and since you're playing, kind of lefty with junk, you kind of just need base runners. I don't know if I would go anywhere between Stelly and Long, right? This might be a scenario where Long gets a look at shortstop, and then you can put another right-handed batter in there, Glenn, with Seth Smith kind of cooling down a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I could see the scenario where all three of those guys get a taste this weekend, but I'm with you. Still, he's proven he can swing it, at all levels. I just let the guy keep swinging it until you get in a situation where it's determined that he has a physical ailment that is preventing him from being 100% or taking away what he can do at the plate.
Yeah.
Until that's a factor, I'm going to let him keep swinging it. But I'd still – Tonsmar hadn't gotten a hit, but he doesn't strike out a lot, and everything he's hit has been hard. It's just been right at people. And he's a guy, you've already burned his red shirt. Make sure you continue to get him ABs.
Right. And the thing with Stelly is, I just feel like if he finally just starts clicking, I mean, it would be understated how enormous that would be for this lineup.
Yeah,
I don't think you can state how enormous that would be.
Yeah, that's that. We're talking about that one guy get to make that lineup so long, and out of the 9-hole, turning that lineup over, it'd be tremendous. Of course, if he starts swinging it, he won't be in the 9-hole anymore. He'll continue to move toward the middle of the order. Sure. I think he's got that kind of potential, man. He's been a 300 hitter and hit for power everywhere he's been.
Yeah.
If he is healthy, which I have not been able to confirm, he's going to hit at some point.
Yep, I agree. From Eagleholic, it says, what are the dimensions of the Arkansas State Baseball Park? It's 35 down the left and right field lines, 370 to the alleys, and 400 straightaway center. So very similar to Pete Taylor Park.
Yeah, very similar.
All right. JCB17, Seth Smith only hitting 167 in his last 7 games. I think he's down to earth enough where I wouldn't mind seeing him in tie platoon based off of the pitcher. Seth has been playing great defense lately, though. And I could see Ty Long starting a game this weekend. Let me just say that.
Totally agree. I mean, and that question falls right in line with our thinking about getting more right-handed bats into the lineup, and then you throw in, the caveat that Seth's kind of cooled down a little bit, and then you see that opportunity starting to show itself for Ty. Once again, he's definitely a guy you don't quit on. You want him to get reps as well.
Yeah, and I really feel like Ty's both of them are really good base runners, for the most part. So
yeah, they're both athletic, and Southern needs as much added athleticism and speed as they can get into this lineup. They're not a terribly athletic group as a whole.
For sure. All right, some basketball questions from Bill Ham. Will Jay Ladner be back next season? I'm pretty sure that if they would have announced a change, it would have already happened. Generally, they don't wait a week or so after the season's over to announce those things. Those things come pretty immediate. I know the ULM head coach was fired the day after their game. So I would say very safe to assume that Ladner is back. I'm going to work on getting Jeremy McClain to kind of confirm that for me, and I'll probably put that on social media. But,
at this point, and what I've heard, I fully expect Jay to be back next year, leading the Golden Eagles.
Eagle Family says, is anyone making the effort to raise the funds to keep Tavares and Weeks or other potentially high players? If so, how do we participate, collective or other? Well, I mean, I'm sure the collective helps with that. I don't actually really know the full answer to those questions. But those are 2 guys that if you could keep, you would have a really good, strong, base of what you could potentially be next season if you could get Tavares and Weeks back on this line and back on this roster. So.
Yeah, and with the collective and even more so with revenue sharing through the university itself, you can designate those funds directly to the sport you want it to go to when you make your contribution. And, yeah, Coach Ladner needs all the help he can get in that regard. I mean, football gets the lion's share of the money and, in terms of NIL, and baseball's got such a good thing going. I mean, they don't have to have a ton of money right now. Obviously Coach Oz will take anything he can get, but Jay's probably in the toughest situation in that regard, trying to put money together to hold on to his talent. And I mean, let's be blunt. If somebody wants either one of those guys, they're going to come take them. Everybody seems to have a number. The only reason Southern Miss is going to keep these guys, it's not going to be about money. It's going to be about, whether I like it here so much. I like playing for Coach Ladner so much. I like the environment here, the way they treat me here. That's what's going to keep them here, much like Coach Ostrander, the environment he's created for baseball. All those guys could have doubled their money and left Southern Miss, but they stayed because of the culture, the brotherhood, the fan base. They love the Southern Miss fans. Jay, that's what Jay has to sell. It's not going to be money.
Right. And I will say, for Tyleek Weeks at least, we interviewed him after the game on Sunday after they lost in the semifinals to Troy. And he was just kind of – Jay Ladner was straight up like bluntly asked, like, how do you keep these players? And Jay said, listen, like, we want to keep them, but sometimes – and he said almost exactly what you said. Like, sometimes teams are just going to take them. I mean, and you can't really blame kids for taking life-changing money. But I will say that Tyleek Weeks was shaking his head at life-changing money and then shaking his head yes to when Jay Ladner was saying we hope that, they will just love playing here so much that isn't a factor. And I think that was very different and I point back to Chris Jones's answer to that after the New Orleans Bowl. Well, when Chris Jones answered that, Glenn, it was obvious to every single person in that press conference room what Chris Jones was doing.
Yeah, and I'm quite sure, I don't have a number, but I'm quite sure the money that Chris got easily exceeds $500K for that year. So, yeah, I mean, to basketball, it's, like you said, it's going to be out. Do you enjoy playing here? You're a starter here. You're a star. You're probably in some instances either an all-conference guy or pushing to be one. What's that going to look like? Are you forward-thinking enough, to where you can look past that one-time payoff and see yourself as a starter and competing for accolades within the conference you're going to go to? Or are you going to be the guy that, takes that money and ends up being a backup piece, an afterthought? That happens so often, man. I've seen Southern Miss football players take the big paycheck and they end up being a glorified scout team guy.
Sure.
And my thought is, I hope you enjoyed, I hope you got paid. Because for me, if you work your tail off all year in the weight room and you bleed and fight all day to play that sport and improve yourself, I want to play football above anything else.
I agree.
A lot of football.
Yeah.
Or basketball, be it basketball.
Right, and it's totally right because Jay Ladner said that in that post-game press conference. He said, "Listen, we're not going to have the Brett Favre stories anymore, right? Where they're playing here for 3 or 4 years."
Nah, that's never going to happen in G5 football again until things are capped or changed or monitored or whatever you want to say. But you can't put the toothpaste back in the tube, as they say.
And I don't think it's ever going to happen again in basketball. And so, at least on this level, unless you can have somebody who's really good, be willing to stay here for a couple seasons. So,
unless somebody's parents has money, and I'll harken back to Gore. The only reason we kept Gore all those years is his dad's a multimillionaire, from his NFL days. Frank didn't need money. He enjoyed being a Southern Miss football player and being the star, and having being the legend here at Southern Miss, and having a legacy. That was just a rare instance, where he didn't need the money.
I would say if you could find a way to get, Tyleek and Tavares back, I mean, like I said a minute ago, you would have a potential to have a really nice base, 2 really good players coming back, and then trying to piece your team around those 2 players. So hopefully we'll get answers on that in the next couple of weeks, and we'll, of course, let you know about that through various social media sites. Dorado says, will we see renovations first for Pete Taylor Park or Reed Green Coliseum?
Was that a little tongue-in-cheek there, Dorado?
Yes.
I like it.
I'll say this right now about that. If there's going to be Pete Taylor Park renovations, they might as well start now, because at least that means we'll see it in 2 or 3 years.
Yeah, the scenario over there is, from a fundraising perspective, I mean, Jeremy's got to get that project started before he starts soliciting funds for the next project. That's just how the business works. I think once that gets going, once dirt's broken and you see, things going on over there, I think shortly thereafter you're going to hear some movement, in terms of the PTP, expansion and refurbishments.
Yeah, for sure. As long as they don't move that little popcorn thing up in the press box, I really don't care what they do at Pete Taylor Park.
Dude, it's got wheels on it. You should just roll it into the press box.
It's so for those who don't know, it's kind of like outside the press box, and you have to walk out of the press box to go get popcorn. I'm thinking they just put one in the press box for us, Glenn. We can just get
Yeah.
it whenever we want.
Yeah,
You
the
think back on
popcorn that they serve at Pete Taylor Park's the finest popcorn known to man.
it's unbelievable.
And he
Glenn,
eats 3 bags every game.
I was just stuffing my face with it against when they were playing Ole Miss, and I was like, "This is so addicting."
I think you should
don't even know what it is.
tape the bag to your face like a feed bag for a horse. Just
That's right. Shout out Joe Harper, by the way, too.
handsome Joe Harper.
He enjoys him some Pete Taylor Park press box popcorn.
Yeah, and ribbing us through the whole game.
Yeah. Last basketball question. This is from Eags. What solace can fans find in our university's basketball programs? Are we wrong for desiring a better product? I don't think you're wrong, number one. And I think that's why I was hesitant to really say that the season was necessarily a success. It was a nice tournament run, of course, winning 3 games at the end and making it fun. But I do think the fans deserve some type of improvement. Being 500 every year, I just don't know if that's enough. And it is a revenue sport, Glenn. Like they need basketball to be better than this.
Yeah, I mean, football has to pay for everything on that campus. It'd be nice, if somebody could, add to the coffers there and make life easier on Jeremy for sure. But yeah, I mean, to play devil's advocate, I would have liked to seen what that record looked like this year if Tavares hadn't gotten hurt and missed that section of games.
Very good argument. And of course, they were 19-16 and 4 or 5 of those 16 losses were to SEC teams in Miami. So
Jay just has to find a couple of shooters, man. They just horrendous beyond the arc, and that's the game now. It's a guard-driven game. So
yeah, it'll be interesting. I am interested to see what basketball can do in the off season, just because they finished off on a high note, which I don't think they finished off on a high note in several years. They finished off on a high note, so maybe they could build on the momentum for next season. And hopefully, like I said, if you could just get Tavares and Weeks back, man, you'll have a great foundation for a pretty good team next year who's going to have some experience back on it.
That's the key. If they can hold those guys, even hold one of them, it's huge. And,
even one.
His new staff has connections all over the country, so they can cast a wide swath in terms of who they can go and look, find and bring to campus. They put together that group in very short order. That staff wasn't together long before they brought all those guys in and took care of it.
It's a great point. And that staff's very young. I know when he was piecing that staff together, we were all kind of going like, these guys have never really coached Division I basketball together. And to Jay's credit, I think it was a success. Finding those guys.
And Jay's proven over time that if he can get them to campus and in his office, he's a closer. He had a sales background, I think, before he got into college. He knows how to close on the floor. So
for sure.
Or win the living room, as they used to say about Coach Bowden.
Yeah, no doubt. A couple of football questions, Glenn. The first is very simple. So when does spring training start? I think it's March 25th, if I'm not mistaken.
24th on a Tuesday.
Okay, sorry. I have 1 day off.
Yeah, you're close.
That is also the day of Southern Miss Mississippi State. So I'm assuming that's going to mean spring football in the morning, head to Starkville that night, watch some baseball, and come home. That's a long day for us.
Yep.
We might have to do a podcast for that.
Yeah, we could. I'm looking forward to seeing what kind of access you and I will have this season at spring football, as last season we had absolutely zero access to the team and the coaches. All we had was Coach Huff. That was it.
I'll tell you one thing, that spring football this year, if we are able to watch some practice, I am not going to know one player on that team. It's going to take a long time for me to not have to, that they give you a roster and then you're looking at the numbers. It's going to take me probably 4 months to look at a number and just know who it is.
It'll take you one practice, bro. We'll get that roster and walk around and lay eyes on people. We'll get it down quick.
We normally do get it down pretty quick. I will say that. But this guy asks John White's status in the quarterback race. The thing with John White to me, Glenn, is I just don't know if he has the arm to be the starting quarterback here.
He definitely has the smarts, the toughness, the savvy. But, that only takes you so far in Division I football. Just as a caveat, I think Blake came up yesterday evening to have a segment with John Cox in the press box, and he had mentioned during that time that John White may be the most improved quarterback of the group over this time leading up to spring training. So he's definitely, not out of the picture. He's going to come and compete, with the other guys. So kudos to John. I mean, he could easily left here several times, but never showed an inkling that was a thing for him. He's set to battle. So he'll be definitely in the conversation.
It's going to be interesting, and I hope we're able to see some of it, because we need to start figuring out a depth chart and figuring out, where guys stand, because they have to, they obviously have to fill 22 starters. They have an incredible roster turnover scenario here, and so it'll be really interesting to see them all on the field in a couple of weeks for sure.
Yeah, and they're, to quarterbacks are quarterbacks with completely different skill sets. The guy from Illinois is a big pocket, 230-pound pocket guy with a huge arm. The other two guys, Liddy and John, have some limitations in certain things they can throw and can't throw. As offensive coordinator, you just, once one of those guys sets himself apart, you design your offense around him. There are ways to, to hide or mask arm strength issues easily, actually.
Well, it's coming up, and we appreciate everyone's questions and all that stuff.
Yeah, definitely. Shout out to the board.
Yeah, shout out to the board. Lord willing, we will probably do a live show on Sunday after the Arkansas State series. People really like that. They get in here and interact with us. So normally we do those about an hour after the game ends on Sunday, just so we can get our thoughts together and, all that stuff. And so we should have that for you Sunday, Lord willing. If something comes up, we'll let you know. But hopefully we can do a live show on Sunday after the game. And then Tuesday is Nichols in Biloxi. Is that midweek, Nichols and Biloxi. So we'll probably won't have anything until after that game, and we'll recap that game and then preview the Troy series coming up, which, by the way, Troy, Glyn, if you didn't know, they're 6-10. I mean, this was supposed to be one of the marquee series of the year.
Yeah, I'm not sure they have the pitching. I think they can mash with most folks, but they're going to have to be in a slugfest for every game. And then when they face a team like Southern Miss with that pin and the starters, the depth, the closers, that can get to be problematic for you.
For sure.
But that's down the road, and I look forward to seeing it.
Down the road. That's right. Arkansas State this weekend, so enjoy it. As always, please subscribe to the channel. Hit the subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music. We're on all the platforms, including YouTube. If you want to see our faces on these podcasts, you can go to Glyn's site, 247 Sports. Glyn, right? It's you still got your sale.
Yeah, it's still half off. It'll be half off for annual subscription going into spring football, so you can enjoy daily spring content for half the money for annual subscription. And it's type in one word, goldeneaglepride.com, and that'll take you right to our front page. We'd love to have you.
Definitely do it. And like we've said, we got a lot of people on there that like to see us as well, because they send us questions. And so we enjoy doing that. And you can follow me, as always, at hubcityspokes.com/sports. Follow both of us on Twitter and all that good stuff. We know many of you do already, so we do really appreciate that. But for now, Glyn, glad to have you back, buddy.
Enjoyed it, man. Thank you. It's good to be back.
Yeah. For Glyn Dyar, I'm Dima Mixon, and that was A View in the Press Box.